Greetings, Captains. Welcome to another TFO training session. This time we'll cover Khitomer Vortex. Let's review objectives.
Initially, destroy the Borg cube guarding the conduits. Once it is down, attack both gateways. The gateways are protected by generators, which are in turn protected by transformers. Destroy the transformers and generators to make the gateways vulnerable, then destroy the gateways. During this phase, you must also prevent Borg probes from reaching the time vortex. This objective is mandatory on Elite. When the gateways are destroyed, defeat the assimilated warbird and its attendant ships that will arrive to stop you. There is a 10-minute time limit to completing this TFO, which is mandatory on Elite.
Thank you. On to risks and rewards. This TFO needs substantial coordination to play well on Elite, with all optionals and without dying. It is possible to complete in a public group, but a tank is usually needed for a deathless completion, and the time limit objective creates a fairly high DPS threshold compared to the rest of Star Trek Online. If you aren't already parsing over 250k DPS in ISE, we do not recommend you attempt this TFO, especially in a public setting. The enemy threat level is moderately high, as Borg will drain shields and deal a decent amount of damage, and there are many Borg ships, though they are not as clustered as in maps like Hive or Infected. For rewards, this TFO offers a moderate amount of Omega or Fleet Marks, along with a chance for Enchained Current Pieces. Lastly, this operation's duration is variable. While it is not time-gated, there are a large number of high hit point enemies, so while we could complete it in under 5 minutes, including the briefing, that was with at least 2 1 million DPS ships, a 500k heavy tank, and 2 other DPS ships above 500k on ISE. Your mileage may vary. The adversaries on this operation are Borg. Borg vessels have a powerful shield drain ability, so encounters with them need to account for low shield uptime. There are generally not too many at once, but there are a substantial number of assimilators and cubes to fight, so a tank would be helpful. The key part of this mission is the second stage, where probes from both gateways need to be intercepted before they can reach the time portal. You could simply station one player on goalkeeper duty, but we find that inefficient. Instead, we generally adopt either a 3-2 or 4-1 split. In the case of a 4-1 split, we prefer to have the solo player engage probes but also attack the peripheral Borg structures. This player is preferably in an exotic or projectile build, so that they can attack from long range without damage penalty, and apply large area of effects or damage over time abilities to wear down some of the structures without being in range. If the 1 or 2 players, the weak side players, can even partially whittle down some of the structures without neglecting probes, that will take time pressure off of the team. Lastly, in the warbird stage, avoid approaching within 5 kilometers of Dinatra's warbird, as this will increase the likelihood of her cloaking, which slows down the map and can place time pressure on a lower DPS team. She has a substantial number of hit points. The spheres and probes that spawn in this stage will not beeline for the time portal, so you have some time to defeat them while Dinatra is cloaked. Single target builds excel on this map, as there are numerous high hit point targets and the enemy density is not too high. In the first stage, attack the central cube. After it's defeated, pick a side and move to it. If you are with a tank or other teammates, stay near them. If you are the solo player, we'll illustrate how to fly this map from the solo player perspective in our exotic video of this TFO. In this case, we're doing a 3-2 split, with 3 players on one side and 2 on the other. I like to start with the transformer farthest from the spawn point, as that places you in better position to intercept the probes coming from the gateway. Target the generators first, then the transformer. Make sure you keep an eye out for probes and prioritize them over anything else. In this case, we took down the transformer and then the cube over it, but you can ignore the cube initially to focus on structures. The danger of doing that is tanking 2 cubes and the gateway later can be a lot more incoming damage. If you have shield off lines, like tachyon net drones, use them on the cubes. In this case, probes from the other gateway slipped past the 2 players there. Admiral Devok will give you an auditory warning and a pop-up message if they approach the vortex. If this happens, immediately stop what you are doing and intercept them as quickly as possible. A single probe reaching the vortex fails the mission. This is why I prefer starting on the transformer away from the spawn point. They started on the closer one and didn't see the probes leaving the gateway. Once they're down, I return back to my side, taking down another group of probes en route. Repeat the previous step of generators first, then transformer, then assimilator and cube. It can be helpful to stay out of range of at least one of the big ships while destroying the transformer, as long as your team isn't low on damage to the point of risking failure due to lack of time. Then again, you don't deal any DPS while dead. After the second transformer goes down, the gateway becomes vulnerable and spawns a number of probes. In this case, I chose to finish the assimilator first, before turning on the probes. If I hadn't been on a pre-made team, I would have chosen to immediately turn on them as soon as they spawned, because of the issue I mentioned earlier. Even so, I still have to engage the probes since they don't go down quickly enough to be comfortable. Once they're down, I turn my attention on the gateway. As a single target build, this is a very satisfying target, but do be careful as it puts out a lot of damage and don't tunnel vision on it to the point that probes sneak past you. There's at least one more round that spawns after the initial group that comes when the gateway becomes vulnerable. If the other side isn't done with their gateway yet, when yours goes down, make all possible speed over there and help them finish it off. Remember that this map has a hard time limit, so you'll want to keep things moving.
Picking up some.
Once the scimitar arrives, that is your main target, but don't be surprised if she cloaks a few times, going invisible and untargetable. While she is hidden, engage the spheres and probes that will arrive to help her, but Dinatra is the focus when she returns. This composition is a little less overgunned than some of our Stow Better tutorial videos, with a damage distribution closer to what you'd see in a typical random group, and it takes us nearly 3 minutes to chew through Dinatra and the attendant ships. This is why I encourage you to keep things moving in the first stage so you have plenty of time to deal with her shenanigans. Try to stay more than 5 kilometers away from her as she will cloak more frequently if approached, but sometimes it can't be helped. It's important to remember that if Dinatra is cloaking frequently, especially because allied ships keep approaching her, keep calm. In a random group, there's a good chance that allies don't know how this mechanic works, since it's really not used anywhere else, and sometimes she spawns right on top of you. Even if allies fly right into her every time, you'll probably have enough time to complete the mission by bringing her down. That's why you keep things moving in the first stage, so you have plenty of time to deal with Dinatra. When Dinatra engages her Thaleron Pulse, that big green cone, you'll want to get clear of that area as it does a lot of damage. Also, remember to prioritize her over the probes and spheres, which will generally die to random AoE attacks, even on a single target build. Shield off lines like Tachyon net drones can help make her vulnerable too. Generally speaking, the Dinatra fight is not hard, but it can be time consuming. Once she finally goes down, the mission ends. Captain, if this breakdown helped you in your quest to play Stow better, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. The link to the specific build used for this tutorial is in the description. For more guides and builds, check us out at www.stobetter.com.